Hey everyone, it's Byron again. I'm here to testify for Jesus Christ. I'm going to continue on with a little bit about a restrainer, not the same thing that I talked about yesterday, other than the same purpose. I'm going to be in Judges chapter 18, verse 7, and I'm going to use this verse to explain how the United States is going to be, the Constitution of the United States is going to be suspended. Now, I'm observing things that are happening in my hometown in a case called the Steve Perkins case. You can go and look online for information involving the Steve Perkins case, but I want to tell you that you're going to see a tremendous amount of information that is about one area of what's going on with the case, and you're being hit by what I talked about yesterday. Is this mere exposure effect? In reality, when this thing goes to trial, or when we start looking at self-defense and all that stuff, some issues that haven't even been being discussed may come up. And I want to just show you from a verse of scripture, and then I'm going to tell you how this verse of scripture applies to someone restraining or holding back iniquity in the United States, and that iniquity is going to be the ruin of the United States. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm looking at Judges 18:7. Let me just read that. I'm going to get to a couple words and talk about them a little bit. And then I'm going to expand it into what I see happening in my hometown. And I've heard a civil rights lawyer state what's happening in Decatur, Alabama could be used as a model for happening all over the United States. So let me read that first. It says, then the 5 men departed. And these are 5 men. They're basically spies or on a reconnaissance from the tribe of Dan to find them some more land. So then the 5 men departed and came to Laish and saw the people that were therein, how they dwelt carelessly after the manner of the Zidonians. And I don't know what the manner of the Zidonians was, but maybe they didn't have any threats. And they were quiet and secure. And there was no magistrate in the land. And when you hear magistrate, just realize, just grab that and say restrainer. A magistrate could be a judge, a magistrate could be a mayor, a magistrate could be a governor, a magistrate could be a president, and then magistrates have their authorities under them. And one of those authorities would be police force, etc. So it says, and there was no magistrate in the land that might put them to shame in anything. And when you hear the verse, put them to shame, think about, oh, well, I'm going to say something, like I'm going to rebuke you and put you to shame. But also, if you want to fight me and I'll whoop you, I put you to shame as well. And you see what I'm saying? You can have a verbal force, but you can also have a physical force. And each one of those two forces could put some people to shame. And these 5 men are out there looking for, they're looking for an easy go. I need some land I ain't got to worry about getting put to shame about. And it goes on to say, and they were far from the Zidonians, meaning the people in Laish were far from the Zidonians and had no business with any man. So they were out there on an island. They were all to themselves. It was the perfect target for the tribe of Dan because they could just walk in and rout them. And it goes on to tell you they burned the whole city and then built a city called Dan. You can hear about a city, Tel Dan. I've talked about that recently in a video. All right, having taken this verse, having read it, having explained it, put you in that mindset, I want to tell you what I see happening in Decatur, Alabama, and what has been said could be a model for how it's going to happen all over the United States. And before I even say that, I want to tell you in dreams, and maybe a vision or two, I have seen Baton Rouge, Louisiana on fire. I've seen bombs going off in Decatur, Alabama. I've seen civil unrest happening here. I've seen mobs of people, ready to fight and all that stuff. Here is how I'm going to tie this to what's happening in Decatur, Alabama. There is a case going on in Decatur, Alabama that may or may not be a racial case, but it involves a black man who you might could say is the victim, and also a white man who might be the perpetrator. But it was a police officer who shot a black man who had brandished a gun twice on another man and then turned it toward the officer. That's kind of in a nutshell the case. I don't know all the facts as far as, well, this law says this and this law says that. I just know this. If you want to live through the day, don't turn a gun toward somebody. Don't do it. Don't do it at all. Because bullets are measured in feet per second. So if you're 30 feet from someone, you're less than 1 second away from feeling that bullet. So bullets are insane fast. So don't think that you can hold a pistol in your hand and someone might not consider that a threat and consider it could be an imminent threat and turn and nail you. Just don't do it. So anyway, that's kind of the bare facts. But let me explain how this is going down. The mayor of our city is providing no leadership as it relates to putting people to shame. No, guys, I'm sorry, we're not going to discuss this case right now. You people that are continuing to want to discuss this case, it's going to be discussed in a trial. It's not going to be discussed here in my office, nor is it going to be discussed at a city council meeting. You people that are trying to have a trial every weekday in a city council meeting, you're going to have to go somewhere else. And if you are a habitual offender of that, you're not coming back. That is a magistrate who is putting a restraint on how people act. Now, that is a white mayor in a town that has a city council, and also the police chief is white, and the city council is, I think it's like 6 people, and 5 of them are white, 1 of them is black. But anyway, the police chief, and maybe this is under the guise of I can't talk about the case or anything like that, but the police chief is not being a magistrate. He's not talking, he's not saying things that needs to be said. And also the city council, I was just mentioning that scenario I talked about where we're not going to talk about this here, things like that. That is happening in the city council meetings. I'm going to continue to follow up with this, and I'll follow up with this factual information, show you video evidence, and I've done it before. I did it back in November time frame of 2023. This thing goes on. It rages on. But anyway, you have softies, or at least openly acting softies, not being the magistrate that they need to be. However, on the other side of the coin, you have people who are being unlike they should be. A city council meeting in my hometown is like going to a hood somewhere off, and there'd be a basketball game, and then there's somebody calls foul, and then 45 minutes later of yelling and cussing and screaming and all this stuff, somebody says, well, whose ball is it? I'm telling you, dude, I've been in basketball courts before. I've been the only man in a gym full of black men. And call foul. Dude, you might as well, if you're going to call foul, you might as well just go ahead and go home. Because, no, man, blah, 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 it's going to go on for a while. Or at least that's back in my day. It's not necessarily, it may not be that way now. But it is that way in Decatur city council meetings. And here's my spin on this. What if the weak white mayor, or the one that's acting weak, the weak police chief, or the one that's acting weak, the weak city council, or the city councilmen that are acting weak, and the strong community leaders, which are predominantly black as far as the city council meetings go, and others that come. There are white people that come too and also speak on behalf of the Steve Perkins case and the lack of magistrate attention. But what if they're all on the same team and they're playing us? And they're trying to set up a situation just like it was in Laish. to where they can move in and take over and install their own form of government, such as would be if the Freemasonry had complete control of the United States. And there is why I've been doing these videos, kind of building up the mystery of iniquity and how we need a restrainer and how the church has fallen by the wayside. The church has become weak. I've even said that the Freemasonry is the Jezebel in the church, and Jezebel was surrounded by eunuchs. A eunuch, I think, for the most part, is all men, and they don't have nuts. They don't have balls. They don't have the magistrate restraint type capability, and that's happened to our churches. So, man, this stuff is it's gonna go on and on and on until the Constitution gets suspended and another type government form is there. I've had a dream where I saw Freemasons teaching people how to worship in a new religion. They were saying, at the time that I saw them, they were saying, now this is how I used to do it, but now I do it this way. And just bottom line is this: the Freemasons are already versed in calling a man the most worshipful Grand Master. So I would guarantee you that the Antichrist, who the Lord has shown me is Barack Hussein Obama, will be the most worshipful Grand Master of them all. He will come on the scene. The Freemasons will bow to him, and there's white Freemasonry and black Freemasonry. Here's the unfortunate thing: if you're not a Freemason and you're white, that people just automatically assume you're on the white people's side. And if you're not a Freemason and you're black, people just assume, well, he's on the black side. And there is what I want to just let you know: the most racially bigoted group of people in the world are the Jews from the tribe of Dan, of who I just read you about. Those guys believe the whole rest of the world, with the exception of them, are cattle. They herd us like cows. They come up with these plans. Like, here's a good example of how long-term their plans are, and this is probably a relatively short-term time. Shortly after World War II, which ended in 1945, there was an incident out in New Mexico, Roswell, New Mexico, and it was this flying saucer alien type thing. And there was this big, huge campaign with science fiction movies about the Martians coming, the aliens, and there's one of them, and my mind's got to where I can't remember everything. Oh, the day the earth stood still. That right there was representing the Antichrist. And there was a song in maybe the 80s by a group called Blondie called Rapture. And they mentioned the man from Mars in Rapture. That's the Antichrist. If you watch that video, go watch that video. There is a black man in a white suit, and I'm guarantee you Barack Obama is black and white. He ain't African American pure. He ain't Caucasian American pure. He is black and white. But his mother was a Jew, and she came from this line that I'm talking about. The bloodlines, man. The bloodlines are big for these guys. So what's happening in Decatur, Alabama is the guys at the top are controlling Freemasonry. You got predominantly black Freemasons on the Prince Hall. You got white Freemasons on I think it's the York Rite and the Scottish Rite. Those guys are the instigators to make us, the non-Freemasons, white versus black. Look in the Bible, Matthew 24, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. The nations there speaks of people's groups. And dude, they're going to play you. They're going to, and like if you're black and you're looking at me thinking, well, he's on the side of somebody that shot Steve Perkins. I ain't on the officer's side. I'm on justice side. If that trial is put forth and justice is served correctly, I'm happy. If it is in favor of Steve Perkins, I'm happy. If it is not in favor of Steve Perkins, but in favor of the defendant, the officer, I'm happy. I'm searching for justice. I don't have a pre-made up mind how this trial is supposed to turn out. But there are men Rodney Gordon, the NAAC president and black Freemason in Decatur, that states they're going to burn the city down if they don't get the verdict they want. So don't let black Freemasons prompt you, a black man, into fighting me, who I ain't got nothing. I never had anything to do with slavery, nor did my ancestors. I traced my ancestors all the way back to England. Never saw evidence of one slave owner. But take Rodney there, Freemason Rodney. You can trace his Freemasonry all the way back to George Washington, who wore a Freemasonic apron, and they're proud of it. He owned 126 slaves around his death, willed them to his wife, and then said, after they've served my wife, they can be freed. Wait a minute. If you were trying to be for people who weren't slaves, why would you join an organization that had slaves? Dude, you see the power of this group, this secret organization, man. And I'm not saying everybody in it is a Freemason, but you got Freemasonry, you got the Eastern Star women. Look at the Eastern Star they got in the Freemason, the ladies auxiliary, or whatever it is. You can just take the signet of Satan, where it's got the goat head inside the star, put it right on the top of there. It'll do the same. It's all the same, man. So this is in my hometown now. It's coming throughout the United States. It is here to bring to the point to where we will suspend the Constitution. You will be told how to worship. You will be told to worship a most worshipful master, and you'll be told that one is potentially soon the Antichrist, Barack Hussein Obama. One other thing I want to share, I did have a dream one time where I was with a military unit as they were called to take over an area, such as Decatur, Alabama. As soon as they get blacks and whites fighting in Decatur, as soon as the black Freemasons get the black folks riled up enough to fight the white folks, that the white Freemasons have gotten riled up and get us clashing in the streets, or even they start the shooting first, they'll call in the military. I've already seen them flying from Redstone Arsenal over here near where I live, Decatur, Alabama. You can look Redstone Arsenal, Decatur, Alabama, probably measure it. It's going to be less than 25 miles if it's even that much. But I had this dream where, and when I say I had this dream, I'm not talking about just any old dream. I'm talking about in 2008, the Lord began giving me dreams, giving me visions, speaking to me and all that stuff. And that's continued on until now. That's a good whopping time. 2025 minus 2008, maybe 16, 17 years. But anyway, I was with a military group, and the commander of the group refused to take action on American citizens. He and his boys were just sitting around chilling. I was with them. We were by a lake outside a city. Look, I don't know why. It made me think of Colorado. Just a pretty scene. You could see a pond or a lake between us and the city, a tree line between us and the city after the lake, and then you could see the city. But another dude showed up with his military people. They showed up. I don't know if you ever seen those scenes where in the cowboy movies where they ride into town, they're shooting up in the air. These dudes are riding into town, throwing spent ammunition, raging about how they had killed all these people in the town. Dude, it's coming. And you want to know why it's coming? It's coming because Christians and the United States are jacked up right now. Christians believe, for the most part, in the United States, they can live as a part of this world and also go to church on Sunday and everything's cool. And it's not. It's not. They believe that allowing Freemasonry in church is cool, and it's not. They believe that they can, go and occupy their mind with all this other stuff and come to church on Sunday, and that's cool. But God wants you to be a husbandman or a farmer. He wants you to farm this land that he has created. Do things for the people around you. Do whatever it is that God intended for you to do instead of sitting glued to a ball game. So anyway, the church is going to be judged first. It will be judged by those people that are currently in the United States that are non-Christian. And then the United States, there's going to be, you can look in the Revelation, Mystery Babylon and Revelation. There's souls in heaven calling, how long, Lord, or how long are you going to not take vengeance on Mystery Babylon? And the thing that Mystery Babylon does is kill what one of the prophets said was the Ancient of Days, or you kill, like Jesus is the Ancient of Days. He was in the beginning, but we are his seed. So Mystery Babylon turns on the Ancient of Days, or God gave them over into their hands, and that is Christians being given over. It's the Church of Thyatira in Revelation. Look at that. They Jesus said, "I'm going. If you don't repent of your deeds, I'm going to put you into great tribulation." Some of those deeds, one is tolerating the Jezebel Freemasonry. Two is committing fornication. That is doing things like, well, I'm going to be in my boat for the next week. Screw the rest of these people around here, you know. I don't care if that kid needs help down the street, needs to know about Jesus. I'm with my boat. You know what I'm saying, bro? And then also eating things sacrificed to idols. That is an ingestion through the eyes, through the ears. Dude, there's people sit around and make up movies, make up songs, then dedicate them to Satan and put them in your ear through the waves. So anyway, that's coming. I'm just saying the purpose of this was to try to say the magistrates in my city are acting weak, and they're doing so in order for the Black Freemasons to raise up a crowd of black folks and get us fighting in the street. And I'm going to tell you, man, I say this every video because the first thing you need to understand is that if you hear somebody mouthing off about what I said, first and foremost, you got to realize these people are trained to counter what I say. Oh man, he ain't done it. Oh, why do he not that? You know, they're trained to do that. They're also trained to keep you at bay so that you won't start supporting the idea. You know what? I'm not going to fight another white dude because of a Freemason. You know, they're trained to counter you. They're trained to make you think. And I've just told you, I mean, George Washington was a white man. But there was nobody in all my history that, you know, there's people with my last name. My last name is Eccles. There's people with my last name that own slaves in this area. But not in my line. My line came up out there. Man, we're hillbillies. We came fell up out of the hills in 1870 and didn't get to a city until 1960. We've been in the country a long time, man. Didn't have money and stuff like that. But George Washington had slaves, and other people throughout the United States have slaves. But there's people that's walked this earth that haven't had slaves, nor would they have had slaves, and probably would have been your best friend if they hadn't been told from the beginning, man, you got to hate these people. And you're the same way. Black folks, you've been taught how to not like white folks. Currently you think the police in the United States are out to get black men. And that's not because that's what's happening. That's because of what you've been told. So anyway, I'm going to let you go for the day. This is what I wanted to show that's happening in Decatur, Alabama. It's going to be coming to your town. Once the snowball effect starts happening, it'll happen fast. Obama will come in, declaration of martial law, and you have a whole new way of going about business. Christian persecution hits, and then the United States is destroyed. So Peter said, judgment begins in the house of the Lord. So for the Christians, it's coming, man. These guys that are pumping you full of right now, these people that are acting like they're weak magistrates, and these people are acting like they're strong Freemasons, you know, on the other side, Prince Hall Freemason. I'm telling you, dude, they are just merely prepping you for Christian persecution. They think they're going to live forever and keep things are going to run in a magical Atlantean state, as they would like to say, because that's the way the cult world thinks. They think that they left over there and came through their twin pillars and searching for Atlantis. They want to go. Atlantis can sometimes be considered the antediluvian world, or the time before the flood. They're looking for that rainbow. They want to get back over the rainbow, like they said in that movie, um, The Wizard of Oz. They want to get back to the good old days because they had wizards, they had tyrants, they had giants, they had what they think was a perfect society. And that one got destroyed by the flood. And this one that they're trying to create as a new world order after the manner of the things that were happening back before the flood, um, this one's going to be destroyed too. And Antichrist is going to be destroyed with the brightness of Christ coming. And then there's going to be a 1,000-year reign. And then Peter says this whole place is going to be, the elements will be dissolved. There's going to be a new heaven, a new earth, talked about in Revelation. And, there's going to be a new Jerusalem coming down out of heaven. That new Jerusalem is the saints. So, man, dude, this is huge. This is big, man. When I was young, I had no clue we were this close to. I had no clue that within my lifetime, the United States would no longer exist as I knew it. I had no idea, dude. I was all about, I was in the military. I fought 2 different conflicts, man. I was all about, let's keep this thing going. I'm rambling. Bye.